I say, how are you doing today? How are you doing today? I am your host, Lacey G. Souldier Turner. And today I have a very, very special guest with me. She's a wonderful actress, model, writer, producer. She's a director, comedian. She's been doing her thing in this acting field for a long time now. And I'm going to let y'all get to know her. So without further ado, we have the wonderful, amazing, talented Alessandra Williams. Welcome to the platform.
Hi, Lacey. Thank you.
You're welcome. How are you doing? So
Good.
we're gonna talk about your film in a little bit, but first I want to let the people get to know you. So can you tell the people where were you born and raised, and how was your upbringing as a child?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was actually born in New Jersey and raised between New York City and New Jersey. Um, my upbringing was very interesting. My parents were, they'll kill me if I say this, but they were runaways, essentially. They had kids very young to very traditional parents that if they weren't married, they would potentially push for an adoption situation, and they were not for that. So when they had my sister, they left home, and so they're very young, and then they had me right after. So me and my sister, my mother and father, we were a great little foursome for like the longest time, and we lived in this apartment building right off the train tracks heading to New York City. And one of my earliest memories really is sitting in my bunk bed, looking out the window at the train and thinking, where are those people going and where are they coming from and what are they doing? And it's amazing because I really feel I manifested such a life for myself coming into Manhattan and starting acting at a really young age through just because I was so close to the city. I was able to access a lot of those. Back then, it was not like a self-tape world, so you really had to be in person. So yeah, I was very lucky to be. We didn't have a lot, and we worked really hard, and we were very humble beginnings. Um, but my father really worked really hard to give us a good life, and eventually he did grow in his business and we started doing a lot better, and I was able to move into the city and sort of start a deeper life in the creative field.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I read somewhere. Did you move out when you was 15?
I'm sorry?
Did you move out when you were 15?
I did. Where did you
Yeah, I
read
do
that?
my research. I do my research.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I did. I was such an independent person. I didn't really like the school I went to. I didn't really like the people there. No offense to any of them, but at the time, it was sort of a very rough suburban public school situation. There was a lot of rough stuff going on, and I sort of had, because I did get a taste of the acting and what it's like to have that kind of life, and I had a taste of that, and I said, I can't be with these people. And so I'm gonna just leave my house and get this apartment with my friend who's 18, so she's able to sign everything. And I had this boss at the time that I was working at a designer clothing store, and he signed for our like guarantor that we'd be able to pay the rent. And I started working and paying rent at that age.
Mhm.
Crazy. I thought I
15.
was so grown, but I wasn't.
I'm
I was a
grown.
I was a baby, but I was determined to just have this life, this idea that I had about what this life would look like. And the second I felt like, okay, I can do this. And it did come a little from some heartache because my parents got divorced, and they were like high school sweethearts. So I mean, it's hard when over time. And but as a kid, I couldn't really understand what happened, and so I was rebelling a bit and just trying to get away from it all, I think.
I got you on that. So let me go into this a little bit because I saw that somewhere also where you were saying like I guess dating like when you were dating younger men versus older men, you like you feel the younger man like you would in abusiveness, and once you started dating older, it just was more I guess romantic and everything. So how did you like escape that, I guess that younger I guess generation, but like, oh, this is what it's about with the older people.
That's so funny that you know this.
Yeah, I do my
Oh
research,
my gosh.
Alessandra. I do my
So
research.
I wasn't expecting these questions.
Definitely.
No, this is great. So I had a boyfriend, my very first boyfriend, and he was a little bit of an alcoholic, and he was partying a lot. And he like threw me out of the car once when it was moving, and then I knew then that this had to I had to go, but for some reason I stayed a bit longer, and then I had done this commercial where I was like an Axe commercial, and I
Mhm.
was so excited about it, and I showed him the commercial, and I had to like kiss this very like dorky guy. Like he was like a stereotype dork, like with the teeth on his glasses. It was goofy and funny. It was like a
Yeah,
parody.
yeah.
And he got so upset, and we got in this big fight, like because he was so jealous about what had happened. And then his pit bull dog attacked me.
Mm,
Um, it was just so bad. So I went from that to going out to Montauk for the summer to do like a group theater recreation with my acting coach and his whole team.
okay.
So it was magic. We were out there doing the real art, doing the thing. Like I was experiencing things I never experienced in my life, and I was growing in ways like exponential growth every day.
Mhm.
And I met this gentleman out there who was 25 years older than me, and he started coming and like wooing me like crazy, like bringing me food, and he would like cook breakfast and lunch and dinner and come to the house while we were in the backyard doing our sensory work, and he would like leave it on the counter with a note and like a beautiful like array of flowers and all
Wow.
these little trinkets and things every single day. And I had never seen anybody act like that, so obviously I was interested in who this person was and what his whole agenda was.
Yes.
um, and I spent time with him out there, and it was very like sweet. He knew I was really young, and he looked really young himself and acted like a kid. Like he
Yeah.
was super fit, and he was a surfer, and so he took me surfing a bunch, and we were having a great time in Montauk. And he was like cooking at his house. I remember the one dinner we had the whole class come to dinner, and we're all sitting there. Getting ready, and he goes, "Oh, you and I are sitting over here." And he had like this table in the corner with like candles lit, and
Mm.
my acting coach goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, this is not like date night for you and Alessandra. This this is we're doing this as a class. You're here to talk about producing," because he was like a major producer, which I didn't even really, at the time I was so young, I didn't really think about that sort of thing. I just liked who he was. And um, after that summer was over, I just assumed that we would never see each other again. And it didn't get like super crazy. Like it was all very like just like him wooing me. It wasn't like we
Gotcha.
started dating or anything.
Gotcha.
And then we came back to the city, and I knew I had to leave my other boyfriend because I was still with this guy, but we were away for the summer. And so I called him to come over, and I said, "Look, I know that this is not going to work. Like, I know where I'm going in life, and like, we just don't fit. And it's nothing you've done, and I'm sorry." And I just had to separate. So it was really sad, actually, for us because we really got on really well, even though there was a lot of hard times.
Yeah.
And then this man, he came and brought me this like classic Shakespeare books, like the original Foley of Shakespeare as a goodbye gift. I'm like, okay, this is like so. And then when I was like, I can't believe you got me these beautiful books. I actually still have them. They're just right over on my shelf. Um, I cherish them. I cherish this moment in my life because it showed me how, as a young woman, you can be treated with so much respect and care, and someone could be interested in what you're interested in. Like, he knew I was obsessed with Shakespeare and in love with this classic, antiques and stuff. And so he brought me exactly like the thing to impress me, and it did. And we ended up spending 7 years together after
Wow.
that. And I was so in love with him.
See, that's a beautiful story. See, it just show people, listen, if you're unhappy or going through something, it's okay to leave the relationship because you can find something bigger and better up in this
Oh,
world.
for sure. There's always someone that is going to be there to treat you right.
Yeah.
For
So,
sure.
Miss Alessandra, how did you get into acting? Like, and how did you go about getting your first role? What made you want to get into acting?
Okay, so what made me want to start was seeing the Titanic on the big screen with my grandmother. I believe I was 8 years old or 9 years old. I was really young. And I had done like little theater camps when I was like 6, but it was just something that I did for the summer where I would paint trees and stuff. Like, they didn't let me actually do theater, but I do remember watching them and being like, God, I really wish I could have a speaking role. I mean, that sort of piqued my interest,
Yeah.
but I didn't really know about movies. And then I saw the Titanic and I came home and I was in the car with my grandma and I said, I want to be Rose. And
Mm,
she's like, really? And she goes, you can, she's an actress and she just is acting that part. And I'm like, I could do that? Like, she goes, she's like, when you get older, you can do that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. Like, that's what I want to do. So I became obsessed from that moment on. And I also was obsessed with filmmaking. My father gave me one of our home video cameras one day and was like, you can use this for whatever you want. And it was like this old tape video cameras. And I started shooting uh, everything, like horror films. Now, they were bad. They were like, I remember one, there was like a bed in the upstairs, like, attic, kind of like an old bed that was there for some reason. And I remember thinking, this is so creepy. I'm going to put the camera over here and that's going to be like The Exorcist. And the bed's going to, so I would run, you would see me run on the camera and move the bed from underneath, like, and then get up and run back and be like, oh my God, did you see that? So I was really interested in this medium from a very young age. But everyone said, don't do that. Like, my parents were not really supportive of me wanting to do that until later. They said, you need to just focus on school, extracurricular activities, go to drama class, whatever. I was horrible in drama class. They laughed me out of every audition I did. I would come home crying my eyes out because I couldn't sing and I couldn't do what they wanted me to do. And I was too little. I was like a little tiny little girl. I was like a little bird. And, like a little hummingbird just coming in and being like, and they're like, oh, and they would laugh because I probably was cute, but I felt like they laughed because I was not good. So it was kind of traumatic, but it did spur something in me that was like, I'm going to show them. I'm going to show them that I can do this better than any home theater, kind of school theater. So I started going into like commercial training at a Barbizon school. And this was like a modeling school in New Jersey that I really wanted. So I would go like once a week for like this intensive, and we would do photo shoots and I just remember my first photo shoot ever, and I got this like haircut like Brittany Murphy, like in 8 Mile. I was like all about Brittany Murphy too, and so that was like the beginning. But I became like a big gymnast. Like, I was all about gymnastics, cheerleading, It was like sort of this performance thing, and that sort of took over my life until I was about 16 years old.
Hmm.
And when I moved out and then I stopped doing cheerleading, everyone was really upset, like how could you stop and why would you stop doing gymnastics? And I was like, well, this is not something I can do forever. My body's already hurting a lot. So I was like, but I was obsessed with just the way it felt to be. I was also, because I was little, I was like up on the top, always front and center, always. You know, you get front and center when you're the little one. And so, but you also have all the pressure to be the best. Like your
Yeah,
toe touch has
exactly.
to go bam, like your back flips have to go bam and
Yeah.
land. And like everything is like, so I became very obsessed with perfection and my body being perfect and being the perfect form. And I became captain of my team. And it was like, I was really into it. And then when that was gone, I had like a major identity crisis where I was like, well, who am I? And no one's cheering for me. And like, where's the audience? And what am I supposed to, what am I working on? So
Mhm.
I focused all of that energy into acting training. At that point, I told my father, I said, I still want to do this. Like I never forgot about it. I really want to do acting. Can you support me in this? And he said, fine, you can live in the house in New York City, because he lived there part-time too. And he's like, you could take over the apartment, live there full time. I'll put you in these acting classes. I'll give you 3 years and see how it goes. And literally, like the first week, I booked my first big national commercial. The
Wow.
next week, another. Obviously, I was playing a cheerleader, so it was like slipped right into those. And I booked, boom, one after the other. And then I booked this huge Bollywood movie. I'm flying to India. My parents are like, you're going to India? I was like, yeah, I'm shooting in this Yash Raj Film Studio Bollywood
Yeah.
film as like the blonde girl dancer, which all my cheerleading stuff really fed into my acting because I was like a great dancer. And so I was the dancer for Michael Jackson in the movie, and I was like the fourth lead. So it was huge. I came home from there, and and I signed with Innovative Artists, and then they like put me out on every audition, and I booked like HBO series, CBS, and I just kept going.
See, look at that. So let me
That's
ask
how I
you that.
did it.
Let me ask you that too. So I wanted to talk about that too. How was it playing in Bad Mash Company? You know, when you went out there and you was the dancer opposite of Shahid.
Oh my gosh, it was incredible. I really got the taste of what it's like to be a movie star because they do it different there. They like really, really take care of their actors. I had like three guys at all times around me holding my umbrella just to keep me out of the sun, fixing my hair, bringing me the water, bringing me food. Like it was like I kept saying like it's okay, you don't have to do that. And they're like, no, ma'am, it's okay. And I'm like, wow, this is what it's like, I guess. Okay, like I could get used to this.
He said I can get
um,
used to this.
yeah, it was a beautiful experience. I think the culture there opened my eyes so much because I hadn't seen a lot of the world yet, and to go there and experience the local people that live there and the crew, and they're just amazing human beings, and they just live so differently than we do in America. They have a lot of it's a third world country, I think. It's not the easiest place for them to live, and yet they just shine every day and they work so hard and they're so kind and gracious. And so I learned a lot about just it just broadened my vision to the whole world. And I also knew it's like if I continue acting, I'm gonna get to see more of the world. Like I'm gonna get to do jobs and travel and go places and see things that I probably never would have been able to see otherwise. So it definitely ignited a lot. And Shahid Kapoor and Anushka Sharma were like the main leads of the film. He's like the Brad Pitt of India. He is so cute and he is so sweet. He worked really hard and he was really kind to me. I or sorry, someone started calling me. My first ever scene that we shot together. I auditioned for the film in English, obviously,
Yes.
and I got the script in English. So when I got to the first scene, it was like a very big scene in the film. It was like right at the climax of the film, and it was the first scene I'm shooting because obviously everything's out of order.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there at the table. It's like this diner scene, and they're about to break up the whole company. And I'm sitting there, and I have like a bunch of lines to say. And we start doing our first rehearsal, and everyone starts speaking in Hindi. And I'm like, and I was like, wait, what is going on right now? And like, I looked at the director and I was like, everyone's speaking Hindi? And he was like, this is a Bollywood film. And I was like, I know, but I got the script in English. How am I supposed to know when to speak? And he was like, interesting. We're going to have to just rehearse it. I'll tell you when, and you listen really intently and make sure you know what sounds right and the timing, and you'll get it. And I was like, okay, I got this. And I'm sitting there like listening to them and going, okay, when? And then I'm like, and then, okay, there it is. And there's my line. And then I'm like, it actually ended up getting voted one of the best scenes in the film because they said it was so intense. And the director was like, look at your listening skills. They're so good. Like, you're really invested. And I'm thinking, I'm just trying to know when to talk.
Like, but it
was a great lesson in acting. It was like a default lesson in acting because listening is so important. A lot of people don't listen, and you can really tell. And when they're just worried about what they're going to say, and yes, I was worried about what I was going to say, but I wasn't like thinking of what I was going to say and not listening to them. I had to listen so intently. So I learned in that moment, like, wow, this is what it's all about. Just being present in the moment to moment. And yeah, that was the first scene. It was incredible. And then we ended up traveling all over. We shot that film in India, Mumbai, in Thailand, in the mainland Thailand, and then on the island Phuket. And Atlantic City was supposed to be Vegas, and New York City we shot. There was a scene we shot in New York City. It was like dead of winter, freezing cold. But in the film, it's summer. So I'm on this rooftop building, and they think it's a great idea to shoot the whole scene of the main cast in this living room with all these windows to this balcony. And I'm outside on the balcony having a summer fresh air. And then I come to the window and interrupt everyone banging on the window saying, like, are we going to go? Let's go, you guys. And then he's like, come inside, Linda. And I come in and finally get to sit inside. But we have to shoot over and over again, right? And they're getting all their coverage. So I am outside in the tiniest little summer dress, freezing my butt off. In between the shots, they're running and giving me the big coat, and I'm holding the coat. And then they're like, okay, we're gonna go, and I have to give the coat. And I kept thinking to myself, just feel this coldness like it's a summer breeze. And I'm like, so nice out here. And it's just like hitting me like icicles in my face, like daggers. And I'm just like, oh, this is so warm and nice.
Oh my God.
The challenges. So really that movie taught me so much that I brought into the whole rest of my career of like, this is what movie making is all about. So much unexpected challenges every day.
Nice. So speaking of actors, you also starred opposite of one of my favorite, Mark Wahlberg, at Netflix, Spencer Confidential. So how was that? How was it being in there?
Oh, so good. So good. I worked with Mark a bunch of times. When I first got back from that Bollywood movie, I auditioned for this show, How to Make It in America, which was an HBO series that Mark produced with Steve Lev. And they had just come off of Entourage, and they made this show, and it was the second season that I came in, and I had like a one episode for like one line, and they loved my work. I was working with Gina Gershon, and they loved my work with Gina, that they were like, I love the way you're vibing together. And she's like, oh, and found out we studied the same acting coaches at the Actors Studio. And so we just really got on, and they're like, we want you in every time she's here, we want you here. So I ended up being in 6 episodes. They gave me so many lines, so much to do. And I met Mark there, and I met Lev there. And we just like behind the scenes, we were chatting and stuff about our dogs and just normal life stuff. And we really got on great. So that was really when I met Mark first.
Okay.
Then years later, I moved to LA, and he did this movie called The Gambler. And one of the producers called me and was like, we would love to have you in, like, we have a small role for you in The Gambler. I didn't audition or anything. I was like, I would love that. And they're like, Mark loves you, come. So I came, I did this little tiny role in The Gambler. It actually didn't make it to the final cut, which happens all the time. Because it was such a small role, you know, they cut stuff down and it was kind of irrelevant, but it was great to be there with him. And so again, we had that great rapport. Then I did the movie Mile 22 with Mark. So this is all before Spencer Confidential. So I went out to Colombia, and I'm shooting with Ronda Rousey and Mark and Lauren Cohen with the director Peter Berg. And Pete was like, you're a U.S. Marine soldier. We're going to put you, you know, with these guys, and they're going to show you how to do everything. And I had like a man's U.S. Marine outfit on, and it was so big on me that the strap, right, was like supposed to go around my chin, but I couldn't hold it on. So I was jutting my chin out to hold it. And Pete's like, I love whatever you're doing with your chin. You look so tough. And I'm like, I'm just trying to hold the thing on my face. Like all these mistakes, people end up loving these, like they're like my idea. I'm like, great, okay, I'll keep doing it. And I'm like, you know, yelling at the people in the street with my gun. And afterwards I said, you know, Pete, I do looping on films, and I would love, if you're up for it, I would love to do the looping on your film, which is all of like the ADR afterwards. Like you do like fight efforts, and it's a really fun like improv group that finishes like the sound on the film. So I was doing a lot of that, and I was like, I really want to do looping in this film because there's a lot of fighting, and so you're like you know, that kind of thing. So I did all the fight efforts for Ronda Rousey. We also shot in like a Colombian airport, so I was doing all the people that were walking back and forth, the Spanish. So I'm doing Spanish, and then there's like this Russian woman yelling, and I did the Russian. So I'm like, I was the only woman there doing Russian, Spanish, fight efforts. I like killed it. Doing the stuff. And he wasn't there, but his producer was there. And they told him, and he called me, and he's like, everybody said that you were phenomenal in the looping. I'm like, I had the most fun. So now that you know that I can do all these things, please remember me for the future. So then cut to like a year or two later, he was doing Spencer, and I saw in the breakdowns that he was doing it. So I reached out and I was like, I would love to read for Spencer. And he was like, done. Then Sheila Jaffe calls me. She's like, come into the office. Let's audition you. And I auditioned for the part. I left. I didn't think I did the greatest audition, but it was like, okay. But you never really know.
Exactly.
I always am my worst critic. Sometimes I think I did great and I don't hear anything. And sometimes I don't think I did great and I get the part. So you don't know. But I got the part. And so this was like a bit of a bigger role with Mark this time, and being more interactive with him the whole time, and being in his local town of Boston was like being back in Bollywood. Like everyone was so nice and everyone was so great. The crew was amazing, and he was amazing. He's quiet on set. He's not like a loud guy. He just focuses, and I think he really tries to save his energy in between takes. Like he kind of just rests and relaxes until it's his turn. And yeah, he's a class act.
All right. Salute to you, Mr. Mark Wahlberg. All right. So let's talk about this. You know, actually, I think it's dropping today, actually, you know, the drama, Lissa's Trip. So can you tell us about this? The film that you
Yes. So Lissa's Trip is such a fun movie. our director, Jeffrey Lando, he was so great to work with because he just had everybody, um, gave so much freedom to all of the actors on set. And he was like a one-stop shop. Like he did everything, which was super inspiring, especially coming off of these films where there's like 1,000 people in the crew. And then he's like the crew, him. Like obviously he had some people here or there on certain days, but not always. And he really, because of him, I knew I could be a filmmaker because I was like, always thought I needed a ton of money to make a film. And I learned that like you don't need that much money to make a film if it's according to what the film is. But he's
Exactly.
just a brilliant, brilliant guy. And what this film turned out to be when I watched it, I was like, how did you accomplish this? This was like he's a genius. I can't wait to work with him again. And working with Sofia Vasilieva, she was the lead actress, was amazing because she's just incredible. We know each other from the Actors Studio. Um, so that's sort of how I got that part. Like she introduced me to Jeffrey, and I ended up playing Alex the painter, who was kind of based off of me because I am a painter and on the side, like hobby. And and then also playing Millie the macaw. So I played this apparition that she has, like of these birds, and I was the macaw. And so I got to do like this whole macaw voice and like the way that they, I brought a lot of character to the macaw. I had a lot of fun playing that little bird. And then we shot just all around Los Angeles. And the movie is essentially about a young actress who's struggling. She was a child star playing Bird Girl. And now she's living at my house. I'm like her best friend. And she's living with me and my family, my daughter and my husband. And I'm just home painting all the time. And she's like, very determined to like get her career back, and I'm just like, look, like just relax, everything's gonna be fine. And she's fighting me like, no, I need to fight for myself, like I can't just paint like you. And I'm like, okay, like do whatever you need to do. And she one morning wakes up and accidentally puts acid in her tea,
Oh,
and she is on her way to a big audition for like the remake of Bird Girl. It's like a spin-off, and they still want her to come in and read for it again, which is like a big hit to her ego. But she's like, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do it. So she's getting ready to go to this huge audition to like get her career back. And she takes so much acid. And I'm like, you can't go. And she's like, I have to go. So she goes and she has this trip across town getting to this audition that is just an epic adventure. And I think it really just turns in on who we really are. I've never done acid, but I have dabbled in some psychedelics. Like there's this molecule called the spirit molecule, and it's like shoots you out of your body. Like you like open up your pineal gland and sort of see like life before death and after death, and like where you go, and like how we're like this bigger soul just encapsulated by our bodies. It's pretty amazing, this stuff. So it's very enlightening, and I think that the movie is really plays well to like the inner depths of our souls, and the questions we ponder about life and death, and direction and purpose. And it's based on Homer's Odyssey a little bit. Like that was sort of their inspiration, but the Odyssey, I imagine it as like the theme of it is being like wandering around. And she's kind of wandering around LA trying to get to this audition. And I can't tell you like how it ends or what happens
yeah.
because I think you should watch the
I gotta watch
movie.
it. It premieres today,
Yeah.
June the 20th on Tubi. Yeah, it premieres.
I'm
So
so excited.
let me ask you this, Alessandra. How was it like, the preparation playing dual characters? Because when your other films, you probably was like, I'm preparing for this one role. So how did you prepare to play both of these roles?
Well, it's interesting because I didn't know I was going to play Millie the macaw until after. So because it's all animation,
Mhm.
Millie is an animated character. I just went in playing Alex. And then when he was in the editing process, he called me and said, "I would really love you to play one of the birds." And
Mhm.
I'm like, he showed me the birds and I said, "I want to be that one." Like that's a cute bird. I love. And then I started studying the macaw
Mhm.
and they actually mate for life. They're very sweet birds. They like stay together and mate for life. They're very uh, traditional, I guess you'd say. And they're so beautiful and they make these beautiful sounds. So being like from the actor studio, we work on a lot of animal work sometimes. So I went full bird
Okay.
for my preparation. Obviously, nobody saw me doing that, but I did like deep work on the bird. And then I went into the ADR studio and they put it up on the big screen and you watch the bird. And he gave me like all the lines he wants me to say. And he was like, and you could come up with some stuff on your own. So I did a couple spin off lines and I just rattled them off all in one day.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Alessandra. What would you say on your journey? You've been doing a lot. What would you say has been your greatest challenge?
My biggest challenge. Um, I would say it's just like creatively
Mm.
or personally.
Yes, whichever one to you that you think.
Well, I my greatest challenge has been really navigating our change in the industry
Mm.
because I went from when it was like to me it was like the golden era for me, like going into the room of casting,
Yes.
um, meeting with the casting directors in person, meeting the directors and the producers in the sessions, and seeing the same actors all the time and seeing everyone in the waiting room. It becomes a community and your friends, and it's like a small group of people that you're competing with to get the part. So we're not really competing, we're kind of like supporting each other to get whoever gets it because the other one will get the next one. And so it was a really pure way to go into the industry, in my opinion. Whereas now it's like we have so many uh, algorithms and political ideas, and like we need to have everyone in the world audition, like 2,000 tapes are coming in, and you're not ever hearing like if they even watched it. Like you pour your heart into these auditions and like the second it comes in, like everything goes out the window. Like if you had plans with your best friend, if you had dinner with your mom, if you were supposed to go on vacation, it's all over. And
Mm.
everyone in your orbit has to like sort of take those hits with you and be like, okay, well, I understand this is her work.
Got you.
And it's kind of hard. I mean, it was like that before too, like when you had an audition you had to go, but now it's like they come in and you don't really get that face
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
face thing as often. I mean, I think it's still happening a little bit. I did have one in-person audition recently, which I was like blown away, but for the most part you're sending in a self tape.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that's the biggest challenge, I think. And you're like, okay, you're up against like a 2,000 people that you're never going to see, and you have no
Exactly.
idea who your competition is.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
It's a
very,
different world.
very interesting. Okay, on the flip side of that, though, what would you say has been your greatest accomplishment?
Oh man. Well, becoming a member of the Actors Studio,
Mm.
because it's one of the hardest places to get into. Uh, Once you're in for life. You're a member for life. The audition process is absolutely grueling, and
Mm.
everyone who's the head of the studio has to say yes to you. That's the
Mm.
judges are Al Pacino,
Wow.
Alec Baldwin,
Wow.
Estelle Parsons,
Wow.
who's like multi
Yes.
Tony winner, Academy Award winners, Ellen Burstyn,
Oh my
Stephen Lang,
God.
like, and the late Martin Landau, God
Mm.
bless his soul, was there when I was, and he was a huge mentor for me, and Mark Rydell. And that's a lot of very big time. very critical people. Like that's the hardest audience to go in front of. Like if you can do a scene in front of those people, you can do a scene in front of anybody. Like the public is so much more forgiving. So that's my biggest accomplishment because everyone has to audition over and over again. They never really let anyone in on their first try, not even Bradley Cooper. Like you don't just get in because you're a big name. You don't just get in for any reason. They want you to show that you're there, you're going to show up, you're committed to your craft, and that you continue to grow, and that you show them different shades of yourself over years of time. And then if they say, wow, this person like has been growing, they've been developing, they show their dedication, then they let you in. And so I got in. And that was my that day was like winning the Academy Award. I was like, I want to thank my parents. And
so let me ask you this, Alessandra. What advice would you give to someone who's trying to become an actor and get into the entertainment industry? Like you said, it's different than it was, years ago now. So what advice would you give those people?
Yeah, I would say use this change to your advantage. Because you can shoot some scenes. Like you can get your hands on sides, which is like a scene, a script, and work on it with a friend. And you can shoot. You have all of this stuff you have cinematic mode on your phone. You have so many things that you can use and put out there, create content. And don't ever listen to anybody telling you that it's like a pipe dream or it's too hard or it's too competitive, because that's every industry.
Right.
Everywhere you go, it's going to be hard. That can't be the way. You have to love it so much. Right. And if you love it so much, then you just do it. And you don't listen to anyone.
That's right. There you go. Do you have anything else coming up that you want to promote?
Well, just Lissa's Trip right now, but I do have a bunch of things that I'm working on currently that some of them I can't really talk about, which are sad. It's sad because they're like the more exciting things. But I'm working on a lot of things. And then I have a movie that I directed that I'm finishing. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm like halfway through it. A feature film. I directed 3 short films in my life, and now and wrote and directed, and I do editing too.
Okay. You do everything.
I do too much. I'm so tired. So that movie, I really want it to come out. It's called Hollywood Movie. I'm hoping to finish it this year, and I'm working on developing my script. Bordello, who I used to have Billy Zane and Dita Von Teese, Joanna Cassidy, and Sophia from this movie attached, all to play the lead roles in the movie Bordello, which is like a really tragic sort of Shakespearean love story. Go figure. Like that's where I started with the Shakespeare and stuff. So I think that is my baby and that is my dream, and I will get that done. Okay. So look out for that.
Okay, so let the people know where they can find you at if they want to get in contact or anything.
Yeah. So you can check me out at Taste the Vino on Instagram, and I think that's it. I don't really use all these platforms. It's just overwhelming to me. I just like one and done.
All right. So my last question that I love to ask all my guests.
Sorry, my things are pushing my hair forward.
Okay. When it is all said and done and you are long gone from this earth, what is it that you want the people to know about Alessandra Williams?
That you couldn't kill me. That love is the answer. Forgiveness. I'm like Mother Teresa. And I don't say that to toot my horn, but I have an undeniable drive to help people. I will save a kid on the street that I don't know. I will do anything for anybody, pretty much. The good people, the bad people. I just see people's souls, and I know everyone's flawed and everyone has a backstory of how they got there. And I just love unconditionally. And I think that if I could give anything to the world, is for them to know that they can love unconditionally too.
Or there you have it, man.
That heals.
Listen,
It heals everything. Like, it heals
yes,
yourself. If you're not feeling well, go help somebody.
yes.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, hey, that's real. Look, that sent chills down my spine.
Ah!
Well, look, I want to thank you very much, for this interview and everything
Thank
you're doing
you.
in the industry. Make sure y'all check out Lissa's Trip. Is premiering today on Tubi, June 20th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let us know what you think.
I'm gonna get off here and go watch it right now.
Oh, you could also go to Lissa's Trip on Instagram, and you'll see all of the promotion, all of the awards that it has won on all the festivals, and you could get in touch with the director there and let him know what you think.
All right. Well, there you have it. Thank you very much. I'm going to let you know as soon as I drop this and write an article about you. And I just love, just going through your life, hearing about your life stories. I really love to get in depth, with the people I interview. So that's why I do my research,
I appreciate it so much. I was not expecting that. And I think the fact that I was not prepared for any of those questions made it super authentic. So
yes,
thank you.
You're welcome. All right. I'll be in contact and you have a great day.
You too, Lacey. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.